we might do something typical and ocean stuff, and then we are experimenting, and maybe that experimenting is our typical stuff. I don't know.
Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, this is Timo of And Oceans. I play guitar in that band. So hello.
And Timo, How would you describe the music of Oceans? What kind of music would you say Oceans plays?
That's always difficult to define your own music, and normally bands don't really like to categorize your music. But when I try to explain to a stranger who doesn't know our band, maybe I would say like symphonic black metal or melodic black metal or something like that. Because if you just say extreme metal, it doesn't really give you a direction. So yeah, but of course that is not the whole truth. Of course, we have like on this new album, we have some experimental stuff, the stuff we had early 2000s. So it's like a mix of different kind of styles, I would say.
Now, would you say that Oceans was always experimental? That there's always like maybe some progressive or some experimental tendencies in the band's music?
Maybe not always. I think our first two albums were like straightforward symphonic melodic black metal, but the AM God 2001 album started the experimental journey for us, so to say, and the Cypher album was totally different from those three albums, and our so-called comeback album Cosmic World Mother and latest As in Gardens, So in Tombs album, they were like again more like symphonic black metal stuff, but with this new album I experimenting again a bit more. And yeah, that is the trend with this band, that we might do something typical and also stuff, and then we are experimenting, and maybe that experimenting is our typical stuff. I don't know. So
Sure. And you've been with the band since the very beginning, right?
yeah, I'm one of the founding members. Yeah.
Would you mind telling me a little bit about what your intentions were, or what the intentions of the band were when you first started? What did you guys hope to accomplish with this band?
Yeah, that's like I think it's quite typical answer that we didn't have any intentions or goals or whatever. But like many Nordic countries, or the bands from the Nordic countries started with death metal, and so did we. And we started back in 89 or 90 with our Festiday band. And the death metal scene was like saturated and was dying out. So we started to do something else as well. So maybe it was just need to do something else than typical death metal. And of course, the first demo of And Oceans wasn't really black metal. We had like death kind of riffs, and and that was really mixed with different styles. So we didn't really know what we were doing at first, but it was the like a first official demo Mare Liberum we did in 97, and right after that we did our first album, which was released 98. So those were like really the beginning of this, and Oceans most of the people know. So
As you mentioned, a lot of the members of And Oceans had come from Festiday.
yeah.
And I spoke with one of the early members of the band who wrote a book about the old Finnish death metal scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was it about black metal and the sound that you guys gravitated towards that inspired you as a musician? You felt you wanted to write music in this style?
I don't really know what was the main reason, because when we started 95, of course we already had Dark Throne, but that was like not really the style we were starting, but maybe Emperor, and then we had like bands In the Woods and Isengard and bands like that, and Arcturus. So maybe it was, I don't know, the melodic style of not just playing really raw black metal. Maybe that wasn't that we were seeking after, but I don't know. No, it was mainly Norwegian and maybe Swedish bands that inspired us, because in Finland we had Beherit and Impale Nazarene. They were totally different kind of bands. So yeah.
Yeah, the style that you guys had on your first two albums is different than those early Finnish black metal bands that you mentioned.
Yeah.
As a guitarist, did you want to challenge yourself? Is that part of the reason why you started writing music in this style?
Not really, because I don't think our music or riffs or whatever are really challenging, so to say. But for me,
Well, why do you say that?
I don't know. They are not really. Normally, black metal is not really complicated, because, of course, you have those chords and different kind of coloring with the chords. Of course, that can be difficult. But for me, the main thing or the challenge or what I really try to make, not with every song, but I try to make some really leads that really hits the spot, so to say. So for me, like, those melancholy leads are really important. And of course, on the other hand, I like contrasts. So melodic, melancholy stuff, and then maybe like fast and even aggressive stuff. So it's like a mix of both.
As a songwriter, uh, or just as a music fan, do you listen to a lot of music that's classical or that has a lot of symphonic elements?
Classically, maybe yes. I have quite a few classical albums, but I don't listen to them like regularly. And not symphonic stuff, but I was listening to quite a lot power metal back in the 80s, like Halloween and stuff like that, but not nowadays anymore. But I don't know where this need to make this kind of music comes, but it's like maybe it's coming from a mother's milk, from the Finnish style of making melancholy and sad music, I would say.
Yeah. As you mentioned, in the early 2000s, you started experimenting with more electronic and almost industrial style music. Was that a scene that you followed or that you had a lot of interest in?
I have always said that wasn't like my first choice of direction, but because if you listen to Aim God album, the riffs are not so experimental. Maybe some of them, but I think the main experimental stuff is coming from the keyboards and the different samples and sounds we are using, and maybe that is the same thing with the new album as well. But back then we had this our original keyboard player. He was really into these like Swedish cold meat industry bands like Noise and all that kind of stuff. So maybe that is the one reason. And of course, our new keyboard player is also really into like synthwave and electronic stuff. So normally those experimental stuff, those most extreme experimental stuff, comes from our keyboard players. And of course, we try to then like make guitar riffs just to fit those experimental stuff, and I think we have succeeded quite well with this new album. So
yeah, when End Oceans resurfaced in 2019, I asked you what your intentions were when you first started. What were your intentions when you guys started back again?
We had discussed this comeback a few times along the years, and actually I even tried to remember all the songs and rehearse those riffs and songs at some point, but didn't happen back then. But then it was 2017 during the Christmas time, because the original members are from the same town, and we all were here, and we just went to the rehearsal place and started to play those old songs, and we made a social media video of those rehearsals, and all the Finnish media took that and made their own news about it, and then those gossips started to go around, and people were talking that are they coming back and blah blah blah, and all of a sudden we got like offers to make gigs in Helsinki and Jyväskylä, and we agreed to make those, and those were really successful gigs, and we were thinking about that maybe we should really do some new music also. So that is the history of the comeback.
Did you feel like there was more you wanted to accomplish with And Oceans, or more you wanted to accomplish with the style in terms of your songwriting?
Maybe both, but when we stopped with this band 2005, there's maybe some regrets that we didn't really know that we had really good thing going on. We had a deal with Century Media, and we were touring and stuff like that. But I think life got in a way, at least for me, because I got my first kid, and I was building a house, and I was really busy with the work, and we were really inactive, and it just died out. And of course we changed style with the band quite a lot. Then we agreed to bury the And Oceans and start Havoc Unit instead, because it was really different kind of stuff with that band. And so to your question, I really want to do something with this band now, and not really stopping until we get somewhere. So at least at this point we have quite good thing going on, and we are really happy with Season of Mist, and we are doing more and more gigs, and tour is planned, and we are really discussing going to different places in this world. So everything's looking really great at this point. So let's see how it goes.
When you write songs, how does it usually start for you? Does everything start with a riff for you?
Yeah, for me, it's really boring answer, but I don't really think too much about anything. I just grab my guitar and start to play, and if something even half decent comes out, I will record everything. And after a few days, I will always listen to them again. And if they makes still make any sense, I will spare them. And at some point, I will try to make like a ready-made song about them of them. And at some point, I will introduce them to other guys in the band, and that is how I do. And then Antti also makes songs with his keyboard, and that is something really special about our band. And he makes a ready-made song with the keyboard, and then he send it to me, and I just write guitars over them. So we have quite a few songs on this new album which are made like that, and also the previous album, and even Cosmic World Mother had 2 songs done like that. So, and also Timo makes songs too. So we have like 3 different composers in this band. So
When you guys compose your songs and arrange the riffs that you come up with, how complete are the songs before the rest of the band members hear them in terms of the arrangements?
and normally we try to make them as ready as possible. But of course, like on this new album, my songs, there are a few songs we added some riffs when drummer says that maybe this needs something more, a twist or tempo change or whatever. So I'm really open to every suggestion. That is really great that somebody says something like that. And sometimes we just change the places of the riffs, but I think they were quite ready, and we didn't really make any major changes at least with this new album. So, and of course with the next I have started to make new stuff already, and I have studied a bit with this recording programs and whatever, and because I'm really newbie with those, but I try to make demo drums and record everything with the click, so we don't have to make any like too much work afterwards. So they are easy to record over with the bass and drums and stuff like that. So yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, which program do you use to demo stuff?
I use Reaper.
Okay.
And then nowadays I have this neural DSP quad cortex and nano cortex, so I use them as like a sound kind of what do you call it, adapter or whatever. But yeah, I also have plugins and for drums and guitar, but yeah, that is the setup.
So let's talk about the new album.
Yeah.
The Regeneration Itinerary will be released by Season of Mist Records on the 23rd of May. When did you start working on the music for this album?
I think my first ready-made song, was it ready even at the time when the or even before when the Acid Gardens was released, because we had really long delay with that Acid Gardens after the COVID or all the vinyl material problems and blah blah blah, so it took really long time to release that album. So we had quite a few songs maybe ready already when that was released. But yeah, I think it was like 2 years ago over.
Okay. Did you want to build on any of the ideas or the style of the previous 2 albums? Do you feel like there's a continuation of this album from the previous 2?
Yeah, I think so. I think the main sound is still the same, the symphonic melodic stuff, but like many times mentioned, we have quite a lot different kind of stuff with the keyboards, but also like I have mentioned in every interview that I intentionally wanted to make some different kind of riffs for this album, not just those tremolo picking normal black metal style, but also those like even more trashy or aggressive palm muted stuff. So that is something different I wanted to make, and I did. So, but normally we don't really think too much what we want to do, because like I mentioned, how I will make new music. I just start to play, and what sounds good, and if it sticks, then we we keep those. But with this new album, I just really wanted to make some different kind of stuff intentionally. So yeah.
Do you think that this is the most aggressive album?
There's elements of that, yeah. And for us and the people who have heard this album, they say that this is a bit more darker than the previous album, and that might be true. And they are like this, I don't know, haunting and maybe like weird kind of rhythms. And so yeah, maybe it is, yeah.
Where did you end up recording the tracks for the album?
It was the same guy who did our last album, but he didn't have his own studio anymore. So it was like joint place he has with different engineers in Orimattila here in Finland. So, but engineer was the same, so it was really easy to work with him as we did the last album. So, yeah.
So you're talking about Juho?
Yeah, you know the guy, or
No, his name may have come up a few times.
yeah, really great guy.
What do you like about working with him?
He's really easygoing, but he's really strict with playing, which is really good. I don't have to worry about if it was a good take or not, because he's listening and I just concentrate on my playing. And he's also really strict with tuning, which is normally great. Of course, we play black metal or whatever, so it's not so it doesn't really have to be so so clean and sterile and whatever. But yeah, those are the main things that I can really concentrate on my playing, and it's really like he's friend of ours, so it's also that is one big plus.
Yeah. Do you want to say anything about the gentleman who mixed and mastered the album?
Yeah, I don't really know him personally because he lives in Sweden, but when we did the last album, Ture Kärna, he was really wondering if he's capable of mixing and mastering this kind of music, because we have quite a lot keyboard stuff, and it's really like full of everything. Because if you check his portfolio, he has done more those raw kind of black metal bands, like he's mixing. He's a sound engineer for Mayhem and stuff like that. So, but I think he did really great job with the last album and this new album as well. So, because it can be really difficult to mix so that we can hear all the leads and all the keyboard stuff and all the instruments on their own. But I'm satisfied.
Was Ture recommended by Juho? Or was it his other work that you...
No, not really, because we just were looking for somebody who has made some great albums, and of course we had quite a few names on the list, but for some reason we ended up with Ture. So I don't know what we are going to do with the next album, but we'll see.
What did you want Ture to bring to the finished sound of the album?
That is a good question. Of course, if I'm speaking for myself, I always want to hear the different instruments and like guitars separately and the leads, and so that they are really balanced, and drums, and I don't know what is the word for that, but maybe
Yeah.
balanced.
Yeah.
And of course, the sound is really important, but that comes from the recording, maybe the bass sound already. So there's not so much to do with the mixing and mastering, maybe. But of course, tweaks here and there, but not the overall sound.
Was it difficult to get a mix that you like in terms of balancing the guitars with keyboards?
At some points, because at least I remember, especially the last album, the Cloudhead song, I played this lead, and it was really competing with the keyboard sound because they are like doing the same thing. So with every song, if there's like competition between the keyboard and the lead sound, we really want to, or we need to decide what is the most important thing on that particular section of the song. Do we have to put the keyboards down or the lead sound down? And normally we put the keyboard sound down, but of course but normally the lead is the important stuff if you are playing those. But
Sure.
yeah, but those are the things we had to think about, not too much else. Maybe Matthias has always something to say with the vocals, but for me the guitars are normally quite okay from the beginning. So
What was Matthias's request or his comment about the vocals?
he has like if he's using different sounds of his voice, like screaming and growls and even whispering, or even on this new album we have even, you can say that they are clean sound. But the mix of those, maybe that is the one thing he normally wants to make perfect. So maybe that is the one thing at least.
Shape was around.
What do you guys have planned in terms of live dates or tours or festival appearances for the rest of the year?
We have at least 3 release gigs here in Finland this month around the release date. And then we have a few festivals here in Finland and in Germany at least. And unfortunately, we have had so many plans with different festivals and trips to Europe and other places as well. But we are 6 in a band and we have other bands too, and they are overlapping with something else. So we haven't managed to do everything, but then we have this one US gig coming, and we have planned a lot to do South America, but there's something coming in a way every time, but I think it will happen sooner or later. And at the end of the year, we have a tour planned, and maybe something is announced soonish. We'll see.
Is there anywhere in particular that you really want to play that you haven't played before?
The one thing is at least Japan, Tokyo. We had, before the COVID, we had already planned 2 or 3 gigs there, and we already had flight tickets, and then this pandemic happened, so they were canceled, and we tried to even arrange them this year. They said that they want us to come there again, but then we already had some other plans, but that is one thing. And of course South America is always something we want to do, and Australia, but Australia is also so freaking far away. So if any day that is possible, we have to like plan something else in Asia also, so to combine the trip with Australia and other countries. But of course we have had offers to Israel, but that is really difficult at this point, and we don't really want to risk anything, so we are not really going there. But also there's some plans in Turkey and places like that. So yeah, many places. And I have to mention here that we haven't played in Sweden and Norway. That is something really criminal. That has to be changed in the near future. So it's really strange that we haven't played in Sweden.
You mean in the whole history of the band, you never played Sweden?
Yeah, that is really strange.
Oh, wow.
Because it's where I live in Pietarsaari, it's like 100 kilometers to Vasa, and there's like a ferry going to Sweden. It would be really easy, or of course fly, but I don't know. Hopefully in near future.
So you mentioned that you're already working on material for the next album. Do you want to say what stage that material is in, and what people might expect from the next one?
It's really the first stuff that I did, and cannot really say what is the direction, but like mentioned before, just start to write something, and if I think they are good, I will spare them and save them. And I haven't really done any complete songs, but like 10 or 20 riffs and leads and melodies, so we'll see. But too soon to say anything specific.
So by the time people hear this podcast or watch it on YouTube, the Regeneration Itinerary will be out through Season of Mist Records. Timo, please tell everyone how they can order the album. What's the best way to get it?
I think there are at least 2 good ways to order it, and that is the Bandcamp site. But of course that is all the stuff is sent from US, so you really have to check what is the shipping cost. But of course we have this band exclusive version which is shipped from Finland. If you are living in Europe or Nordic countries, that version would maybe suit you better than shipping from US. But of course then we have the Season of Mist shops They have like North America shop and the rest of the world, which is located in Europe. So those are the places you should check.
Do you want to say anything about the vinyl version that Season of Mist created for this? I believe there's 4 versions, right? 4 variants.
Yeah, I think they have this one exclusive for Season of Mist shop, and then they had, of course, the normal black, and then one extra color, maybe, or was there 2? I don't really remember. And then we have this band exclusive version, which is sold only by us, not by Season of Mist, and all the stuff were shipped to us last week, so I should get them late this week or early next week already. So it's really exciting times to see those. Yeah.
Does all the merchandise, like T-shirts, go through the Bandcamp page?
Yeah, you can order from there and also from those Season of Mist shops. And normally Season of Mist have those print on demand. So actually you can choose whatever design we have available, and whatever, like a hoodie with zip or not, or girly and stuff like that. So there's plenty of choices to choose from. So go check them out.
And if people want to get updates on live dates, festival appearances, and things like that, what's the best way to follow you guys online?
We update our own Facebook page. We don't have any official and Oceans page, but we put everything on the Facebook, and also all the live dates can be found from Season of Mist band page. And also we use this nowadays, these bands in town also, so all of the dates should be seen on Spotify. And what else? Maybe that's it.
Is there anything else you want to say?
The most common question asked at the end, and always a bit difficult one. I don't know, just support the bands and go to gigs. And it's really it's really difficult nowadays to have a band and go out there, but it's the only thing that makes it possible that people really go to gigs and buy merch and support the bands. And yeah, this is something I want to do. And it's like, it's love for the game. Otherwise there would be no sense doing this after all these years. So yeah, and hopefully we see many of you on a tour or some festival gigs. So yeah,
Thank you so much, Timo.
thank you.